Nepal's Gen Z revolution. The protest that shook a nation. Every generation is shaped by struggle, but none were underestimated quite like Gen Z. They were called lazy, distracted, and addicted to their phones. Critics said they'd never stand for anything, that they'd never bring change. But in 2025, the youth of Nepal proved everyone wrong. From the bustling streets of Kathmandu to the quiet mountain towns, a spark ignited that would soon grow into a storm. A generation armed not with guns, but with courage, creativity, and a voice louder than ever before, took on the establishment and brought their government to its knees. This is the story of how frustration, injustice, and the power of digital connection transformed into one of the most defining revolutions of our time. This is the Gen Z uprising of Nepal. The beginning of the storm. It started on the morning of 8th September 2025. Kathmandu's air was tense, heavy with chants and hope. Thousands of young men and women, mostly aged between 18 and 25, gathered under the banner of an NGO called Hami Nepal. They were students, workers, dreamers. Many came in school uniforms, others in jeans and hoodies. None carried weapons, only placards, phones, and determination. Their peaceful march began at Maitigar Mandala, a symbolic circle in the heart of Kathmandu, moving toward the Parliament building. They demanded change, justice, and accountability. But as the crowd grew, the government panicked. Soon, water cannons and tear gas filled the streets. Rubber bullets followed. Then, real bullets. In the chaos that followed, 19 protesters lost their lives, including a 12-year-old child. Over 400 people were injured. What began as a peaceful protest had turned into tragedy. When the people of Nepal saw these horrifying images online, the nation erupted. Protests spread like wildfire to Pokhara, Butwal, Bharatpur, and Damak. By afternoon, the government tried to impose a curfew, but it was too late. The revolution had begun. The digital silence that sparked the noise. The roots of this anger go back much further. Months before, the Nepali government had made a controversial decision to ban major social media platforms unless they registered with the Ministry of Communication and established local offices. The official reason? To stop fake news, hate speech, and cybercrime. The real reason, according to protesters? To control free speech and silence dissent. By 3rd September 2025, 26 social media platforms were banned. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, WhatsApp, Twitter, Snapchat, all gone overnight. Only TikTok, a Chinese-owned app, remained operational. To the people, this was not coincidence. It was control. For a country where millions depend on social media for jobs, communication, and global connection, the silence was deafening. Families could no longer speak to relatives working abroad. Businesses relying on online bookings collapsed overnight. Tourism, Nepal's economic lifeline, began to suffocate. And yet on TikTok, the youth found a way to fight back. Under hashtags like Mike Nepo Kids and Mike Nepo Baby, young creators exposed the double standards of politicians. Their sons flaunting luxury cars, designer brands, and lavish parties while ordinary citizens struggled to afford basic necessities. The contrast was painful, the anger contagious. To understand the fury, we must look at the deeper wounds of Nepal. The country's youth unemployment rate stood above 20% in 2024. That means 1 in every 5 young Nepalis had no job. Thousands were forced to leave the country every year, to Malaysia, the Gulf, even war-torn Ukraine and Russia, just to earn a living. By early 2024, more than 15,000 Nepali youth had joined the Russian army, many dying in a foreign land, far from home, for a few $1,000s a month. And while these young people risked their lives, the children of their leaders were flaunting their wealth online. Nepal's politicians, many of them in their 70s, ruled like it was still the 1980s, cycling power between the same few faces, K.P. Sharma Oli, Pushpa Kamal Dahal, and Sher Bahadur Dubba. Corruption scandals, nepotism, and broken promises followed each of them. One prime minister's wife was accused of helping fake Bhutanese refugees reach America. Another was investigated for selling government land to private developers. Billions were lost, while the poor got poorer. Even the law itself protected the corrupt, making it impossible to investigate any politician for policy decisions. So when this same government banned social media, the last remaining voice of the youth, it was like striking a match in a room full of gas. The protesters' anger wasn't only political, it was personal. They had seen friends migrate and die abroad. They had watched their parents' savings vanish. They had grown up in a system that never listened. The social media ban was the final straw. What started as slogans turned into flames. The Prime Minister's residence was set ablaze. The Parliament building burned. Protesters even stormed the homes of ministers. One tragic fire claimed the life of a former Prime Minister's wife. Helicopters evacuated officials. The army was deployed. By 9th of September, Prime Minister K.P. Sharma Oli resigned. For the first time in modern Nepali history, a government fell at the hands of its youth. The aftermath and the lesson. But this was not the end. Even after the resignation, the protests didn't stop. People were no longer just demanding justice for the killings or the lifting of the ban. They wanted a new system. Some even began calling for a return to monarchy, saying democracy had failed. It's important to remember, before 2008, Nepal was ruled by kings. After years of revolution, the monarchy was abolished in 2008, and the country became a federal democratic republic. But in the 17 years since, Nepal has changed governments 13 times. Political instability has become the norm. And when democracy fails to deliver, nostalgia for the past starts to look tempting. Yet history teaches us that replacing democracy with monarchy or dictatorship never brings peace. The real solution lies in rebuilding institutions, demanding accountability, and creating opportunities for the young, so they no longer have to flee or fight abroad. Nepal's Gen Z has shown that freedom is not given, it's taken. They stood up when no one expected them to. They proved that social media isn't just entertainment, it's empowerment. And that silence can be broken, even when the internet is turned off. The world watched as a small Himalayan nation became a giant symbol of resistance. The story of Nepal's Gen Z is not just about protest. It asks about awakening. It's about the courage to demand better, to call out corruption, and to fight for the right to speak freely. To every government that ignores its youth, this is your warning. You can shut down the internet, but you can't shut down ideas. You can silence the platforms, but you can't silence the people. And once the youth rise, there is no going back. From Kathmandu's burning streets to the digital battlefield, this generation has rewritten history, not with slogans, but with solidarity. Nepal's youth didn't just protest. They reminded the world that democracy belongs to those who dare to defend it. If you want to understand how a nation can transform itself from chaos to prosperity, watch our next documentary on Singapore's rise from poverty to power, a story of leadership, vision, and resilience. And if you'd like to explore AI tools that empower creativity and awareness, check out AI Fiesta, link in the description.